There we go. Okay, so we want to start off with having you guys kind of reflect throughout this call. So the biggest thing is going to be about building trust and commitment and foundation with yourself. So the first question before we dive in that I want you to really think about is, can you trust yourself? And so that's a hard question to ask yourself without context. So what does building trust with yourself actually look like? And the biggest thing to start that off with is creating self-commitment. So with building trust with yourself and can you trust yourself, I want you to ask yourself and journal about this, write this down, reflect on it later. Are you showing up for yourself? And if so, are you showing up consistently?
For example, like when you put what you want down and like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this tomorrow, and then you don't do it, it doesn't build trust within yourself. You're going to start beating yourself up. And honestly, that relationship with yourself needs to be so straightforward, and you need to always be like hyping yourself up. You have to be your biggest hype man. Noah agrees.
Noah's
so,
hyping us.
So with that being said, like, make those lists, make those goals for yourself and show up. And that builds that core trust, just like a relationship with anybody else.
Yeah. And so what does showing up look like? And so we talked about this, and really showing up looks like, are you working in a way that genuinely works for you? So a lot of times we fall off because we're not working in a way that aligns with what works for us. So you need to be able to find a mindset like a leader. Like everything we do in this business is duplicatable because we want everybody to be successful because it's more fun at the top with your friends. So a lot of times, like I said, we fall off because we're working in ways that we're comparing ourselves to others and it doesn't align with who we are and what we need to do to get the job done. And that leads to comparison, which we all hear comparison is the thief of joy, but comparison leads to burning out, getting in your head, and then eventually falling off.
And I agree so much with this just because when I got into this business, I was like unsure of who to be, right? Unsure of like who I was, unsure of who to copy, who to duplicate this business with. And I think that comes with really learning about yourself, learning how you work. Like, do you need to be yelled at? Do you need to be encouraged? Shay likes when I hurt her feelings if she's not showing up for something. Like, knowing how you do that and like what's going to motivate you, and then finding someone that works that way. If someone is nice all the time, Noah's just here wooing at us. But if someone is nice all the time, like I need a coach. I need a coach because I have that sports mindset and I've grown up that way. And so I had to copy someone that had that same mindset, that same work ethic with that. And so there's so many people at the top, there's so many people in the middle that you can find and you can copy, like we said, and be duplicatable.
And it works too, because like Kara said, she likes to be coached. You kind of have to hurt my feelings to get me to get the job done, because I'll get in my head enough where I won't really listen to typical coaching. So she has to be a little bit harder on me and kind of push me into one of those like, okay, fine, like let me prove you wrong mindset. Like I'm more of a competitive mindset. So you have to kick me into gear to get me moving. So I had built, I mean, she knew that before the business. But
I kind of coach friends anyway.
But with that being said, you have to develop your mindset that works best for you in comparison with your work ethic, and then figure out what's going to get the job done for you. But there's a lot of trial and error with that. Building a business, especially from scratch when you don't have a business background, is difficult and it's messy, but that's okay. So if you're developing that mindset of what works best for me, what work ethic, like what patterns, habits, things like that work best for me so I can get the job done. But maybe you did fall off, or maybe you don't hit some goals, or maybe it's a lot of trial and error and you're hitting tribulations and you're struggling. That's okay, because it's all a learning experience and it's a learning curve. But sitting there and feeling bad isn't going to fix anything. That's when we have to pick up the pieces and kind of keep moving. And something we were talking about earlier that I really liked was getting frustrated is a good thing. It shows that you haven't given up yet.
It also shows if you're frustrated, it shows that you care, one, and that there's a problem. So once you've identified the problem, from there, you can figure out what the solution is. Look at this crazy dog right here. He is so needy right now. But basically, just figuring out like, okay, I'm frustrated. So that's good. I care, but there needs to be a different direction here. So the direction you were going is not working. How can I get to the direction I want to be? We need to switch the mindset and switch what we're doing essentially. So figuring out like, okay, there was a problem. So let's say, I don't know, making content every single day is not working for you. So how can I switch that? How can it work for me? I'm frustrated. I'm getting burnt out. Okay, batching content. Okay, doing it on every other day, figuring out that. That's how you problem solve and you continue rather than being like, well, it doesn't work for me. I'm just going to quit.
And the reality is, when you're frustrated with where you're at, whether you haven't been hitting the goals that you want to hit, or you're just not making it as far as you thought you would as quickly, like the traction isn't really building up. Frustration means that there's friction. So we need, like she was saying, to identify what's causing that friction so we can move past it and move beyond it. And something that humbled me pretty heavily when I was complaining about where I was at in a certain situation was someone told me, you're not a tree. You can move. If you don't like where you're at, you need to move. Congratulations, you don't have roots. Like, you have legs. Get up and walk away. And so being able to develop that mindset of like, I'm frustrated because I didn't hit the goals that I wanted to hit this month, or I didn't end last year how I wanted it to end. So it's like kind of messing up my mindset for 2023. Noah agrees with me. To be able to switch that mindset from a why is this happening to me to what is this trying to teach me, and what habits and patterns do I need to start developing so I can move myself forward and start building that foundation. So the next question that I want you to write down that you need to ask yourself is, are you a foundational person? And this is so important because I also want you to ask yourself, are you a safe space for your future team to lead? And so what does that necessarily look like with being a safe space for your future team? And that's going to tie back into showing up for yourself consistently and building that trust with yourself. So are your actions now going to show yourself, but also your future team, that you are a strong foundation?
And I think that comes with an example, for instance, killing it one month, absolutely crushing it. You're like, I'm doing great. And then something happens in our life and we completely fall off. Mm-hmm. And not do anything. With the beauty of this business, yes, we're allowed to fall off if you want to do that. Like, for instance, when I hurt my leg, I clearly was not working the business. I had surgery, I was going through life changes. But I also wasn't building a team then, because if I was building a team and they saw me fall off, why would anyone want to join my business if I'm showing up one month and then falling off the next, and then showing up another month and falling off the next? That's so inconsistent. Like, that's not building trust within yourself, building trust within like the business partners, the future partners that you want, and also within your business. And so, like, I love that graphic we've all seen where it's about consistency, and it's like like came at 110% this day, I came at 10% this day, I came at 20, and it's all over the place, but you still showed up. Mm-hmm. And so that is the biggest thing when you are wanting to be, build this team, because that's the beauty of this business, is we get to bless ourselves and then we get to bless others. And so that's like the biggest thing. When you guys don't want to show up, even if it's for an hour, dude, you could literally do 30 minutes when you wake up and 30 minutes when you go to bed. And that would still count as showing up for yourself and your business and building that trust.
And the more you're showing up and building that trust with yourself, the more you're going to build discipline. Because the reality is, especially building a business, you're not always going to be motivated. Trust me, I will speak on that from such an honest standpoint. I just went through a period where I wasn't even motivated to really do anything at all whatsoever. But that's where discipline kicks in, because I've worked on building that foundation where I know that I can trust myself to show up regardless of the circumstances. And it is messy. It's not pretty. Success in any business platform is so messy. Like some days you're so productive and everything is so good. And then other days you're like, what even happened? Where did today go? And it's like, okay, I have to pick up the pieces and start again tomorrow because I have to show up every single day regardless of how I'm feeling. And that's where we have to develop that discipline to teach our mindset to have our actions determine our feelings and not our feelings determine our actions. Because if we let our feelings of not feeling motivated or feeling like we don't have the time or feeling like we just can't do point A to get to point B this day, that's going to dictate what our actions look like. And you're going to build a discipline of being inconsistent versus I don't feel like it today, but I'm going to get it done so I can check that off my list. And then you're going to check that off your list and get that little boost of dopamine that you need and some serotonin, like, ooh, I did something, and then move on to the next. And then that discipline of consistently checking off your list every day, even if it's little stuff, all the way to big stuff, is going to help you show up no matter how messy life gets.
And I think that looks like setting like a list for the day. Like as entrepreneurs, we can get kind of overwhelmed with the to-do list never goes away. So let's be honest here. But with that being said, I don't even do like a week to-do list anymore. I do a day-by-day to-do list where I either do it the night before or like while I'm at work before. I call it like the calm before the storm, before the hospital gets crazy. It's like 6 a.m. and it's dark and quiet. And so I set like, what do I need to do for my business today? And if I don't hit it, then I don't beat myself up because there is tomorrow, but I'm still showing up to attempt that list. And I think that's the best way to stay organized. If you're, busy, if you're working a job on top of this, if you're just overwhelmed completely and you don't want to look at the entire week, focus on just that day. With that being said, like I kind of want to go into more of like the manifestations and like what our heart truly desires. So our heart truly desires these visions, right? Where we get these visions and we're like, man, I can't get this out of my head, or it's a spark, or for me, it was a dream, like certain things, right? Our desires want us as well as we want them. So that sounds kind of weird, but in manifesting and all of that, like energy and everything, they really do like want us. And if you're into like a higher power, or for my instance, God, like God wants us to show up and he wants us, he wants to give us our desires, just like the universe or whatever you believe in. So honestly, like stop doubting yourself and start doing. And when you take messy action, my team will hear me say it all the time, messy action, that messy action will clean up each time and it will become perfect action. And you won't be scared to do it over and over and over because you've already been doing it messy. You're like, wow, I'm so much better and it's only been a week. So with that being said, like the doubts and the limiting beliefs that we talk about, I really want you guys to write them down this week and counteract them. So let's say, for instance, an example, I'm scared to go live because I'm live right now and it's kind of scary on my IG. And so I'm scared to go live. Well, counteract that with like, I am going live. I am going to be successful on my live. I'm scared to reach out to so-and-so. Like I am going to reach out to so-and-so. And like, if you're not getting no's, you're not working your business. I'm sorry, but not everyone is like, sales is about timing and not everyone's ready to buy when we're ready to sell. So make sure you keep that in your head. Also, I wanted to end with this super good quote, but I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. Boom, mic drop.
And I just want to finish by saying something that Kara tells me regularly that helps me keep going is no matter what you feel like your limiting belief is, she always says, even if your voice shakes. And she tells me that all the time, like, just go for it, even if your voice shakes. And that is applicable to everything. I was even using that today at my job. Like, I was like, I have to have this really difficult conversation. I'm scared. I'm anxious. What do I do? And she's like, even if your voice shakes.
And make her say it 3 times. So it's like she
Yeah.
can hear my voice in her head.
And so now whenever I'm anxious, I literally hear Kara's voice in the back of my head go, it's okay, even if your voice shakes. And it makes it so much easier to just be like, okay, I trust myself and I can do this even if my voice shakes. So
I love that. So if you guys are ready to take messy action and stop doubting yourself and go after all of your heart's desires, drop a 4 in the chat and truly like get ready for this next season of your business because you're in the driver's seat and like time to hit the gas. End here.
Okay, we're ending the live. But with that being said, you guys, when you're looking back over your notes and reflecting on this, like genuinely those questions, take it seriously and journal about it, because that was a huge eye opener for me when I started journaling about self-consistency and trusting myself and showing up. And as you're journaling about it, I want you to also take notes. Like, what is your coaching style? Like, how do you need to be coached? Because not everybody is the same and not everything works for every other person, and everybody's in different seasons of life. Like, what coaching style works for you? And then reach out to your upline for support. Get on that one-on-one phone call, talk about coaching styles, talk about the kind of support that you need, because the reality is we can't help you if you don't help us help you. So we need to know. Yeah, all the time.
I always say I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, and she'll be like, you're not talking to me, so how am I supposed to know what's going on? And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, my bad. This is what's going on. And then she knows how to coach me properly, but we can't show up in the way that you need us to show up unless you communicate with that. So it's important that you really take those notes seriously and dive into what's going to work best for you when building this business, because we do understand everybody really is in a different season of life, and trials and tribulations are coming no matter if we're ready or not. So being able to stay close to the fire and help us support you makes going through those trials and tribulations so much easier and so much softer, so you can confidently show up for yourself and for your future team.
We're a team, guys. Like, don't be like, oh my gosh, like I'm a burden. I know a lot of us women feel that way. We're a team. Like, I want people to put in the chat, like, I need motivation today, or I'm scared to do this. Like, this is why we're Empower Empire. We are here to empower each other to get through this, because life's already hard enough. Add on life and building a business. Like, it's not doable alone. That's why this business is set up the way it's set up, and that's why people succeed this way. So utilize the team, utilize the chats. We always say stay close to the fire. And then I see in the chat, you want me to reread the quote. It's not who you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not. And we can be whoever we want to be. Okay,
that was kind of really it.
Yeah.
But Noah's still yelling at us.
I think I need to take him to go potty.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording here if I can remember how to do it.
There you go.